Hello everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. We keep one day early. Tomorrow very special day, right? Very happy Valentine's Day. Yeah. Usually tomorrow happy Valentine's Day is the motivation is attachment. Right? Anybody will don't touch this. They can need also gifts. Also we can do tomorrow also do some parties. Maybe we can love each other, all Dharma brothers, sisters. Also we love everybody, all centuries. Same as us. No one wants to any suffering. Everybody wants to their own happiness, right? They say everybody happy Valentine's Day. Tomorrow we love all the centuries. Okay, now finish my broken English. I have few words to finish. Then start. Right? Yeah. 다들이 나서 내 부르짖는 직. 나바 사진이 추단 되게. 아니 지금 소소 다 생겼. 다 여와 시당이 꼴아야. 지보인 말이었어.
And so again, we are gathered here to discuss about how to tame or subdue our mind in relation to the teachings given by Buddha.
이 바이자 다 단단해야 하는 이. 다 상님하고 보초모 다 소소 다 가오리는 것이 이제 기치들이 살았어. 그래다 이제 텐디데이터 상님이 되줘야 되는데 그나도 소소 잡혔던 거다 제가 왔어.
And so, like I said earlier, so tomorrow is a special day for one's lovers or loved ones, and that kind of day comes actually with the attachment motivation, right?
이 나야 다른 게 나오는 지금 내 지금 나서 나 지금가 아니 지금 휴식을 했다. 아니 도체버도 또 인자자인 거. 주진이 선부대로 가마야 강같이 들어가고 제게 좋아다. 니네 선진 차상 알아서 나지 지금 대화도 받아 동감도 받 주도해 봐서 딱 가서 차상 찍지라 봐지 시험기나 다 가오나 야보시라 그랬어.
And so just like you express love for your partners, your spouse, your husband or wife and so forth. Just like that, you can express this kind of love, a real unattached love, the love without any kind of sense of attachment towards your Dharma brothers, sisters. And because all sentient beings wants to have happiness and no one have any sufferings, so therefore you can also kind of have that kind of love towards all sentient beings. And so therefore you have to give a little bit of a gift to all sentient beings in the whole world.
You make commit good mail today. As today by that you pay attention to she reported what the Maria.
So when you give, it's not necessary to give a material thing.
And this was the same thing I think. Something chasm. So nashi that you put up the way on the other. That can get the trim, they were chanting in Baza. That consola can get down. And you do not in my own down. And you put the way on it. So no Javana. That thing real is that drag Jala Yaski.
So even if you're not able to give these material things to all of the sentient beings in the whole world, but if you can just give this kind of love towards all sentient beings, you can do that mentally. You don't have to have a physical thing to give all the time. You can do a mentally thing like that, and that is the best of all the gifts.
Samjen Tamche Yamaroji, Tatawayana, and you Suzola Jada. That was the dress at it. Should have known road. Dress edging of the patch you are down. Yes, it is Suzuki Chapaya lighting on it. No road.
So if you are able to see all sentient beings equal, then the attachment and anger towards the enemies and attachment towards friends will be much less.
Nansujala, Konto said the switch as you was a dress at the doors. Angela Chapas at the city, that's Suzuta Gaza to drink to that Jala in by that simply in by the check it was.
So who gives us that anger, or who causes us to arise and anger in our mind? For anger to rise in our mind is our enemy, right? And who causes us to have attachment is our loved ones, all the things that we are attached to.
The day by that you Samchen Chasan Yamoro Tadana, and the dress at the mess was. Yes, I was Chabalas at the mess was.
So if you are able to see all sentient beings equal, then you don't have the enemy towards whom you get angry, and you don't have a friend towards whom you are attached. Right?
But the day that you and Chechula Matebe, and Samchen Chasan, so they want to do one with the Shiba Ilaza, count at the your shows and this is Javana. I mean, Yabaya should tell us.
So since all sentient beings wants to have happiness and no sufferings at all, therefore if you can just think that all sentient beings have happiness and they be free from all sufferings, then that is the best gift. And so ultimately what Buddhism teaches you is that that you have to subdue or transform your mind. So this historical Buddha who came about 2,500 years ago, he's giving this advice from his own experience, an experience that he gained from through his practice. And so that is the way of benefiting sentient beings. The Buddha's way of benefiting sentient beings is teaching what he has discovered. So whatever he has taught, if you contemplate and meditate on that, and then you will find that it makes sense. So what he said is that I can show you the path to liberation, but liberation depends on your hand. And so he has given the whole responsibility on ourselves to achieve the liberation. He can only show the path, but achieving liberation depends on ourselves.
Today, by such something else, such subject of chances about someone to can't get on many parts of La Paz, a parking one of the other some to show today, you're married.
And so sometimes we tend to think that if we pray to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they will just come and pick up all these sufferings and take away from you. If we feel like that, we tend to think that, but it's not like that.
Today, you are not kid that
If that was possible, then they would have done this long time ago and we would be just relaxing.
Relaxing. No one wants to go walk. Too much. Too much headache. But today, by such a Sanjay, Nabi, Chu, Pesana, Karem, Sonshavade, touching Lama so much in Rejitaris. Then they should Javan Nazi, Susu Tamu, Samata, which quite little. Susu check your reservoir.
And so what Buddha has taught, many gurus, they explain on that. And even when you hear those explanations from the teachers, you can think about that point, those things, and then see if it makes sense or not.
Sanjay so at the Imbare Sando Shavana, and then also set up Tembo.
So instead of analyzing that like that by ourselves, if we just think, oh, it must be like that because it was taught by Buddha, then it won't be very stable in our mind.
Today, but Council Shabbat, Susu, Taji, Koniwaina, that didn't manage Takari. Sanjay Chulachi, many chicken, they were missing your reservoir.
And so, instead of just believing what Buddha said, if you just check what he says, whether it makes sense or not, and through checking, when you gain the understanding, then that understanding will be very firm in your mind.
Today, by the chicken, Pedro Shavana, that's the drum of the castle. Kurukulla Center. Today, but that Kurukulla Center, Kurukulla Center, listen, Kurukulla Yapo do the Tajicho. Sanji John in the coast, Yabo Marsuata, Tango Yabo Mari Shashavana, not to Generation Togo was.
So, for example, Buddha said anger is bad. So, if we just believe that anger is bad because Buddha said it, then it will not be very good. Not very strong, right? Because instead, so if we just check it ourselves, whether anger is really bad or not, and then through checking, when we understand that anger is really bad, then that understanding will be more stable in our mind.
Pecharo Shavana, Kondo Tau Mishiavana, tell Tropo Tomote Noir.
For example, if the person has a very strong anger, then he normally has fewer friends. And that's because when he becomes angry, then all the people around him becomes unhappy, right?
Yamana Puchi Kondo, Yamana Pawaji Kondo, Tabochi Chada Ruchi Kado Savachi, Tadi Chevana, that Tina Richi Kondo Savachi, Kondo Tembana, and Misanga Machoches was.
So, for example, in a family, if the mother or father has a very strong anger, and then they gather together to have a meal, they all are very happy. But then, when one of them then becomes angry, then that makes all of them unhappy, right? So they will all be unhappy and kind of in the state of gloom, right? So not very happy, not clear. So. So you have that experience, right? Do you have that experience of anger giving you a hard time like that?
That to the Chujukalaya, teenager girls boys. She took you Karachi, Chikorotawana, and it chick that Toboto Chikorotawa never in the Yachi. Korotawa Tigi, and you got in a mature chicken was.
So when you were young, and you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, and if one of you has a very strong anger, even the other doesn't have, then the person who has anger becomes, when he or she becomes angry, then the other one also becomes unhappy.
Kadina te atala de the yogurt, gosh, short the trams and after Kadi. The Kudo, my giant touchy. So the other person has to always try to subside his or her anger. So just like that example, all other delusions, the attachment, the anger, jealousy, pride, and so forth, are all bad stuff. 단단 간수 내차 제도 컨트롤 하자 다 먹게 지어라서 두수 원하는 것도 저거 있어요. 두수 가르쳐 주셔야 되는 거죠. So right now we're controlled by these delusions, always under the control of these delusions, attachment, anger, ignorance, and jealousy, pride, and so forth. So we are we're always kind of plagued by them. We do whatever they want us to do. What? 배차라고 생각지. 레그로에나 지. 레그로에 와이나. 아니 다 되게 본보 되게 찍다 대셔 봐 가지고 그 간도 체계로 왔어. 다 본보도 가라가 그럼 이해하고 왔어. So for example in an office or in a job place, in a place where you work, you have a boss, right? So the boss controls all the people working under him or her, and they all have to listen to him or her, right? And so whatever he wants you to do, you have to do that. But maybe not opposite. 다 배대나로는 지금 아주 내가 제게도 지 boss 파칸을 제가 용도 왔어. 다 너무 강하다. But sometimes there are people employed, the people who are working under controls the boss, right? If what's important doesn't love, they protest the boss. I still did the way this job okay. Therefore, today by 다 나랑 수 컨트롤 다다면 다 셈투자 도조 가래 나도 도조 와도 마로 채워서 간지 맞지 맞지 코도 컨트롤 채워서. So we should not fall under their influence, under these delusions' influence, and rather than that we should control the delusions. 배나 가서 총가로 그러나 아니 잡아내야 돼. 잡아서 I like to this. 잡아야 끝나니 그냥 요가 좀 먹으려고 넣었어. So for example, when we go to the shops, we're attached to these things, and with attachment is I want this, I want that, and then we tend to buy all this stuff. You have to use good car. There's tomorrow you worry, I have to buy this, I have to buy this. Then I'm chopping you what you want. So the attachment made you to buy it, right? And that to you, what's that? Hit the attachment. No, stop. At the day that I think of the time, I'll do chapati. Kanji, Manzo chapel on the Pamasochi or Kanji. And so at that time, we should not fall under the influence of the attachments. Kono So when we are controlled by the anger, the whole body, speech, and mind acts in a bad way. Verbally we say bad things, and physically we show these bad expressions from our face and so forth. Yeah. 남주직 소수직 가사니아사 토포토무치. 샴쇼 지다 미라고 이마야. 콘로사나 가 두링에서라. 그보고 남 두정왕 때는 왔어. So even though these people who are close to you, when they seem to be very caring and loving to you, but then when they are angry,
and they show this bad expression, or say bad words to you, right? So that's how they're influenced by or controlled by the delusions. And so we listen to our mind. So we are kind of dominated by our mind, and the mind is dominated by delusion, and therefore all the unwanted, all the problems comes up. And so it is very important for oneself to not fall under the control of one's mind, and mind to not fall under the control of the delusions. But because we are hunted with these delusions since the beginning of lifetime, so whether it's a listener or a teacher, always follow the delusions. So therefore, as it is taught in the scriptures, the Buddhist scriptures, we should do as much as possible. So whatever advice is given in the scriptures, even though you don't understand the depth of it, but it's in many ways very beneficial for one's mind. So like in the Tibetan community, they always give advices to their children or the close ones, always saying so you should behave well, you should not act in a bad way, in a greedy way, and so forth. And so in general, in the Tibetan community, people are very well behaved and so forth. I'm not saying that Tibetans are all very good, but in general, it is well behaved. So that's because they have some imprints from their previous life or from their past of listening to these advices. And otherwise, most of them, like most of the old folks, Tibetan folks, they don't even, if you ask them what are the three things to ask about, most of them don't know. So somebody asked in our village, somebody asked, what are the three jewels? And then one person thought, one must be Buddha Maitreya, and the other must be the protector, one of the protectors. And then he said, I wonder which one is third one. So in terms of this kind of intellectual knowledge, most of them they don't have, but in general, the advice is given to them all the time, saying that they have to behave well, should not behave in a bad way, and so forth. And so that, because of listening or hearing that, they tend to behave well in general.
Because I hope no one knows better the lesson here. Otherwise they against me. Why you talk about it? then by the chicken, sugar loves at the mambo, rather in the chick. Kasi Yamland the Lulu Chema, I think Pasa was how
so even if you are not able to study in depth, but just hearing these advices again and again leaves an imprint in your mind.
Yeah, that's it. What I think of just thinking of Kazan.
So it's like that, and now we continue from where we stopped last time.
And then Kazan,
So last time we talked about realizing all the teachings of without contradiction and allowing all the scriptures to present themselves as instruction. Right? Realizing that all the teachings are without contradiction is knowing that for each person to gain enlightenment, we need all the teachings of the Buddha. So just like if you want to prepare a food that has certain flavor, then you have to have all the ingredients to make that flavored food, right? So it's just like that. You need all that, all those ingredients.
If you need to cook Chinese food or Indian food, you need to many different spicy things. You have to know everything they need the food. It's better was. That teaching, that color switch on the bed. That the sort of the down the chow, that Sanji was a chasm, Yamin. Cup color pie Yashiva, Yamin Sheshi Badalani, somebody down the chawas at him was.
And then, just like you have all the ingredients, and you know that all these ingredients are needed in order to prepare that flavored food. But then, on top of that, you also have to know how to prepare that food. So knowing that, it's like allowing all the scriptures to present themselves to you as instruction. And so, being able to apply those instructions into practice, all these teachings into practice.
Everybody knows cookbook. You can check cookbook. You say, oh, I did this, you can buy. Then making time, we don't know, we again check. But today, that's when a color soy chala kind of go ha go. That go chala the pejetani. That color switch was the raw. Tell Annie, that's what I'm going to do.
So knowing that you need all these things to prepare the food, and on top of, and after knowing that, then you know how to prepare the food. So that's like similar to allowing all the scriptures to present themselves to you as an instruction. Through knowing that all the teachings are without contradiction and allowing all of them to present themselves as instruction to you, and by doing that, then you will know, how to easily discover the true meaning of the victorious one. The true thinking of the victorious one. So the word of the victorious one and their commentaries are, as I have already said, the best of instructions, yet you cannot discover the ultimate thoughts of the victorious one merely by referring to the great classics without any instruction from your guru on the spiritual path to enlightenment. So you won't be able to understand that without those instructions. And even if you find, you will not find it without working very hard for many years. But depending on the scripture, the lam-rim, you will be able to easily discover the true thinking of the victorious ones.
This is a shortcut to understand all the verse, Dharma. Everybody like to shortcut, right? Sometimes we go to somewhere, put the GPS there. Somebody she or she took long way. Today by such a lam-rim there. That is things on the orders. Something sort of
so this lam-rim text, lam-rim teaching, is like a key to find all the thoughts of the victorious ones.
Now we have key in how you open. How to open, okay? Open the karita. Something sort of.
Or open the scriptures of the Buddha.
Then that is one of the what. One of the day we have combatted, you know, that they never carried another document. Rinpoche gave us some lam shut down. Chabata also not in the rest.
And so, what is the lam-rim text? You know, that makes you to able to easily discover the true thinking of the victorious one. You know, is the lam-rim teachings, and especially these three principal aspects of the paths.
What? That they chose to give some lam shut down. That you can much alcohol.
So this the paths, the three scopes. You know what are the three scopes, right?
And everybody knows.
You all know what are the three principal aspects of paths.
Everybody knows? Yes, yes. Some give us some, tell us some down. There's some set.
So there are different ways of saying three scopes, three vehicles, three type of disciples.
그래서 가서 먼저 태웠음 해야 되지. 아니 대신이 태워, 태미지 태워, 대신이 태워, 막 태웠음 저기도 대파시. 그때 병이 지지는 개라다. 금방 가서 때나 자서 로저 시대고 갈라다 마체 딱막 간도쇼 나오고 지금 티카나 하나도 지금 태웠음 해서 말은 이 돌아 되어 사실은 아니 가정에 듣고 티 지지는 막 되는 거여서 막 사는 거 모르이다. 태웠음 해야 돼.
So last time somebody mentioned about the three vehicles as being the Mahayana, Hinayana, and Vajrayana. So and I don't know, maybe it's the error of the translations or something. But anyway, in the sutra, when we talk about in terms of the sutra teaching, so we talk about three vehicles. It's referring to the hero's vehicle, soldier realizes vehicle, and Mahayana vehicle. And I also read many texts on the paths and grounds of the Tantra, but I didn't see that term using the three vehicles in that way.
남짓 간제 타왔음 손사말라 다 마치기 아니 니라니 아니 다 자주서 타와서 거기에 들어와.
So anyway, when you talk about the three vehicles, usually the vehicles of the heroes and soterias, and then the bodhisattva vehicle.
What is okay? What is that? Is it that? That share give us some lampichadam, sabarta, that also not some the rest. That they will combat the last year. Nigati. They be the and Jitan of the Aneta, Losona, now the Lawan, Toba country of Kovani. Jesus was on what the typical Toba Mishi, Sumbata. Honey, Yanto get our Matona, Jevigoma, Matoba, Mrs. Only, Yanto get our Tona, Jevigoma, the Lado. Nigga, touch you somebody else, what?
So you have to know these three scopes, the three scopes of the three scopes and the three principal aspects of the path to know the intent or the thinking of the victorious ones. So that's like Lam Tsongkhapa said in his just like Lam Tsongkhapa said here, appearance is mutually independent and emptiness being without exertion. So long as you think these two seem separate from each other, you have not yet realized the thoughts of the sage. Or the victorious one saying. And so this is actually saying that you have not realized the thoughts of the victorious one unless you have realized the correct view, implying that it is the strength of your realization of that view that enables you to discover the thoughts of victorious one.
today, but there's some like core in Nevada. Anything else which you Mama dress and so much of that. Goodbye, and it's no matter. Never do so much. Never.
So if you don't have the understanding of these three principal aspects of path, then there's no way you can practice all those higher teachings, higher practices like the Mahamudras and the great completion stages and so forth.
Everybody like to Mahamudra, just forget it. If you have any experience with three, so you not carrying by nature. That's the goal as well.
So you need, for all those practices of the Sutra and Tantra, these three principal aspects of paths. Even if you don't have the realization, at least you have to have some understanding, thinking, oh, this is what this is what renunciation is, this is what bodhicitta is, and so forth.
Oh, today I answer also that Javi Suna can give on the card not an injuries. And then just a time and Gobelante, and a Shancho Senji. Got to Jimote, I have a tower. What an injury chance of Yanda with tower someday. I get a check over it.
So these are the three principal aspects of path: the renunciation, bodhicitta, and the emptiness, the view of the correct view of the emptiness. This is the import, the essence of all the virtuous scripture. This refers to the fundament of renunciation. And he goes on to say, the path praised by holy victors and their children. So the bodhisattvas, the path praised by Buddhas and bodhisattvas is the fundament of bodhicitta. So that's the second root of it. The second principle of the path. And then lastly, it says the gateway to the fortunate one to liberation. That refers to the correct view of emptiness.
Anybody cheap? Any of these three things? Achieve every one these three things. And it's very short.
Don't discourage.
Don't discourage, okay? It's okay. It's still baby practice. We just try to walk step to step. We have to go maybe 100 floors and building. We have to go one floor, second floor, step to step. I think this case no elevator. If the elevator go there, we push one, then jump there. We can go steps to step. But don't save time, walk.
Don't be discouraged.
Okay? I'm not making you guys discouraged. 나도 강에 찌발이 저들 매워도 많이 왔더니 나도 찌발 찌발이더라고.
So we all same. It's not like you don't have and don't have. We all same.
나도 강가다다 baby practice. Just step. 근데 얘가 지금 단단감소 로종 제대로 돼. 지금 너도 가르치는 수준이라 제거도 가르치다 답이 제거도 되고 하면서 로종 제거했어.
So right now we're studying, about these points, we're studying, how we can generate these or achieve these realizations from our mind.
Sometimes people think, oh, I've studied Buddhism, they change immediately my whatever I wishes. Then they come to us, they don't feel any change, they forget it. That's the
So generally, when you practice Buddhism, you should not have this expectation, to happen everything very soon.
Slowly, okay? Don't give up your books, okay? Sometimes people bring a lot of books in the bookstore. They show us, bye-bye. These are everybody too slowly. Want to be get on that. Why continue by that? 와 텐징 에주샤로 야서 따왔는데 다시 다 주첨보는 다 이제 또도 제가 그래서 나도 주첨보지 간조사 땡겨서 관계가 시야게 제가 그래서 이제 또데 다 에주샤로 야서 따왔어 됐음 따라다 됐음 이렇게 되고 다시 뭔가 그래서 와
So whether they use the term as three principles as a part or the three fundamentals of the path, it's the same thing. So those are referring to the renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness. So all the scriptures that explains about all these teachings in detail, they're all actually, the subject matter, the main subject matter of all this scripture is the three principles.
근데 이마다 샹좀 나오는 찌부 빼서 찌부 내가 때리 다 아니 유치모도 제자 아니 로소만도 땅도 내가 또 그래서
So by depending on the scripture like this, the lam-rim, then you will be able to understand the meaning of the three fundamentals of the paths.
근데 이제 다 내가 쇼크를 나도 지 간주 땡주 유치모 차마지 인지가 되려 말다 나도 로로 채워도 말. 다 나는 지보들 때도 하고나 다 우리 쇼크를 내려도
So just by reading or studying this lam-rim, we can understand all these things. Then it's really shortcut, right? We don't have to go through all those scriptures of the Kanju and Tenju, the teachings, the Buddha, and the commentaries.
아니 저도 지금 이것도 얘기하고 지금 아니 jelama도 같은 지로시나 다 이거는 사들에서 내가 하고 말로.
You don't know that.
아니 이것도 얘기해서 나와요.
So if you were to study all this extensive text on the ornament of realization or the sublime continuum, then it's very confusing.
근데 맞아 다 람을 집본들 때는 더 차상 고아 또동으로 올라와야나 다 이거 쇼크를 내려왔어.
So just by depending on this lam-rim, you can find the actual meaning of all those scriptures. Then this is really shortcut, right?
다 가려고는 간지 내주 샹스면 야도 따왔으면 다 뭐 하고 그랬어. 가리 말고.
So first you have to understand what are the three principal aspects of the paths and what they are.
대지에서 내주셔야 돼. 간지 코알을 탄다 줄로. 근데 대리대 샹스 생기서나 야 아니 다 가리. 선배는 아니 도와주는 감사는 주차로 그래서 간지 코알을 탄다 줄로. 내가 내주셔야 그래서
So the renunciation is the mind wanting to be free from cycle existence.
아니 삼제 탐지게 된다. 딱 고발을 탄데 삼제 고발 탐지로도 샹스 셈스로.
So just to give you just idea of what renunciation is. Renunciation is a mind, it's a state of mind wanting to be free from cycle existence. And bodhicitta is a mind also, a type of mind that wishes to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings.
아니 야도 왜 따왔나? 아니 다 돈이 들어오려고 그래.
And the correct view is the wisdom relies on emptiness.
Everybody love to meditation emptiness, right? Today that you 아니 돈이 있어야 되지. 관심 많지. 추 탐주 랑긴 문이. 다 듣던 랑 고난 문이 다좀 맞아. 하고 그래서
And so the emptiness here is referring to the emptiness of existing from its own side. So none of the things, none of the phenomena exist from their own side at all.
지금 나도 지금 양아치 간지 추던지 데바트로 말해라가 돼. 라고 했잖아. 가이데 까와도 말해라고 돼. 가이데 까와도 동화로 왔어.
So when we say none of the phenomena are existing truly, means the phenomena, no phenomena exist truly, right? Phenomena is not existing truly. And so just like you say, this cup is not a pillar, same cup is not a pillar. So you can say the pillar is empty of cup.
그래서 추탐시 데바트에 동화를 데바트로 말해라고 그래서 가지.
And so when you say all the phenomena are empty of existing truly, that means all the phenomena are not existing truly.
근데 데바트 와서 예와는 가르쳐 버렸나? 아니 또 뱉다 봐서 많이 봐. 로고 봤다 와서만 봐. 다 랑은 수중에 접하고 그래. 근데 저 코로 매와서 다 너도 저러 간가 디몬 저거 말해서.
So if it exists truly from its one side, then the things has to exist from their one side without the mind leveling at such and such thing. Since it is not possible, therefore, it is not possible to exist truly.
다 들리러 왔다 지금 라파로 지나다 들리나 다 간지 뭐지 야 내가 저 말씀 가가 요 말 라고 말들어.
So this is just a rough idea of what the three principles of the path. So when we say it doesn't exist truly, doesn't mean it doesn't exist at all.
Then if you can go to great the monsters, Sarah Garden, they always debate. Someone say, oh, this one, someone this. They always debate. Because debate 지나다 내가 좀 맞는데 그걸 제거를 들어. 근데 로또 나서 때나 봐서 걸려. debate 제거를 들어.
So what the debate exists, whether things are existing truly or not, debating on what are the three principles as well as paths.
Some Tibetan, usually they are not used to go there. They don't saw. When they go there, the monks debate. They're very serious. They're all fighting. They're fighting. But they're not fighting. They try to the three principles. How you understand. How also identify. Okay. 어떤 데 이바인사 지금 간지 마시 딱 알아서 전조 쓰면 되지 가래인 봐 전조 쓰면 또다 사지 소라 가는 지시 쏘고 때 근데 나는 들라 때니 다 돼서 뭐시 다 신경 해서 와 시도고 해서 와
So the subject matter of all the Buddha's teaching is those three principles of the paths, and by depending on this lam-rim, through this lam-rim, then you'll be able to understand that.
텐디 다 로또 나선다 하고서 맞지 하고와 대한 다가라 맞아 깔래라 마다니 다 jelekewashona 다 제고나 대라 니바레스
So after understanding what the three principles paths are, then working very hard on them to generate those realizations in our mind. So when you have then generated those realizations of the three principles of the path, then you have found the intent or the thoughts of the victorious ones.
It's very well able to understand that they will model there.
So do you all find that you have some hope to discover the true thinking of the victorious one now?
Maybe I don't have. Too far. Started today that today the Tango Shuichimoto Taganada, that Tokumaris, or Pekali Kores, that tell Lauren the Lojo Chena, and Yagos.
So it's not easy, or it's very difficult to study all those great scriptures. So it's very difficult, and it's not really possible for many of us. But by studying this lam-rim, which is pretty short compared to those, we can understand those and gain those understandings.
근데 배상 was 배나 다 유치모도 다 장소도 지발해서 아니 로또 나서도 다 디장소 나와 해야지 다 뭐부터 지발해서 상처 나오는데 다 장소 나와 파도야 제대로 지발지 대땡이 라마디 다 저땅에도 지발해서 배상 was.
So they're given this example here, right? All these scriptures, the whole this kanji tenpyo, the translated teachings of the Buddha and commentaries, are like the oceans, and so then the three principles of the path, is like the jewel in the ocean, and this lam-rim is like a boat, and the guru who explains this lam-rim is like the captain who's sailing the boat.
If you are not a good captain, then you need to go down. But today, 다 장수 놀라 가려요리 땅아도 놓으세야지 또 같이 모여를 was. 근데다 유치목 간게 그 제제 또 가랬다 노조 남선들 해서 근데 노조 남선들 다 노조 장수 가래 유치하다 따고 다 도매가 있다 다 라브런다고 되지 뒤죽지라 노조 제와였나 아니 장수도 너무 얘기를 해서
So just like I said, that's the three principles of the path are like the jewel in the ocean. So there's no way you can study all those scriptures, which are like the oceans, and then the three principles is like the main subject matter of all these oceans. All these scriptures, right? And since you cannot study all these scriptures, but just by studying the lam-rim, and you'll be able to understand all this, the main subject matter of all these scriptures, the three principal ascent paths. So if we don't need to study all those scriptures, and just by studying this lam-rim, if we can understand those three principal ascent paths, then that's very good, right?
If you study all them, they make you more confused. You don't find anything. What's real they talk about?
And so the lam-rim is like the boat. So by going on that boat, then you have to get the jewel. So the captain, or the lama, who is teaching the lam-rim, or the captain, who is sailing the boat, has to be good in, has to be skilled and knows the path very well and so forth. Otherwise, if the captain doesn't know the path very well and doesn't know how to sail it well, then he might sink the boat. And so just like that, the lama has to be someone who is very well knowledgeable.
Therefore, if we will, and
then you all sink into the ocean. So therefore, the guru devotion is a very important part of the lam-rim. And the guru who explains this teaching has to have a very good knowledge of these teachings, but not only having the knowledge, but also having experience and realizations of these teachings, the lam-rim.
Okay, I want some said, I forget it. I'm getting old and very easy to forget. They show sign of old. Sometimes upstairs, I want to come something here. That thing, I need to see it downstairs. Come here, I forget. I just run, I go back. You guys have this happen? Sometimes you have to go kitchen, you have something to pick up, you forget. Come back again. They show us we are getting a little old, not too old, a little old. Nobody wants to old, right? Yeah, but little old, little. Oh. I was just say something. 오다 간지마지 또 다 준들아 로로 야고 제와이나 아니 다 제요 공부 들었다 얘기해 로소 남선들이 로소 남선들이 강강 무야 벗으니 다 전화다 레레레지 다 길게 와치고 그래서
And so by studying this scripture, the lam-rim, or by any other scriptures that you study, so the intent of the Buddha that you're supposed to find is the three principal ascent path. And so you should study very well all the scriptures to understand the meaning of the three principal ascent paths.
그래다 맞지. 삼선지. 용어도 왔지. 걔가 첨보치. 딱 가면 돈 버지면 강같이 되지. 어려워자대로. 대지 저와는 내려오고 사지로 저기도 왔어. 이요 말도. 대삼니 지기야 어따 주 대지나 다 줘서 좀 사지가 되는 취해봐나 다들 놀러 들어 맞아. 저 땅에 놀지 다 농이 지하는 거죠.
So when we hear about all these high practices, we want to do that, we want to go and achieve that, and then sometimes they say that if you do this, you do that, and you will achieve it and very quickly. And of course, you have to have all other basics stuff in order to be able to have the realization of all this path and to be able to achieve enlightenment quickly. So when you don't have that, then just by depending on those high practices, you will not be able to achieve. And so therefore, you have to have, just like you have to have a skillful captain to sail the boat, and you have to have a teacher who can explain all these things clearly to you.
Today, I'm going to something to the others. Shoke Gomna, Shoke Sanje, Gonda Gomna, Gonda Sanje. That got the language in the Tanda Sanje is today. Get it Gondos, Gonuas.
So sometimes you hear this, this thing saying that if you meditate in the morning, you will achieve enlightenment in the morning. If you meditate on that in the evening, you will achieve enlightenment in the evening. So those the fortunate ones will achieve enlightenment right now. Have you heard of something like that?
You got here? Today, maybe you go to Google, maybe you find. Today, you're today, you don't spot it. You don't spot it. Can't temper Lamada, can't tell the designing a gym, the imagine you see yours. Another Pashio Master.
So this is possible. It's possible if the guru and the disciple, the guru who is explaining and the disciple who is receiving this explanation, if their mind stream has ripened, already, then it is possible. But in our case, it's not possible.
I don't know, you guys, me not possible. What that tended or some today, that tended or something of that number chicken, that chopochi, so good in Dover Sayo, Tamakashi, Dawakashi, Lokashi, Kalajam, quiet Sabina, goodbye, you shall do. Hey, don't talk 2 hours, 2 hours. You're allowed to do a matter.
So this is the thing that makes us think that we will be able to achieve enlightenment very quickly, and then we try to do that. But when we don't achieve, then we think, oh, it's not really possible, and we give up completely. So that is because we are looking to achieve the things, having this expectation to achieve all these things very quickly, and so we shouldn't have that kind of expectation. So first you should be able to generate renunciation.
소소한 코와등에서 동안 대마지 sem체 탐정 코와등에서 동안에 타야기 다 타나서 로지만 되게 뛰어야 답시 오래들어.
So none of us wishes to be born in the lower realms, in the hell, hungry ghosts and animal realms, and we want to be free from that. So we practice and then we somehow free ourselves from there. But we're still born in upper realms, and we're still in cyclic existence. So still there's a lot of suffering. And so what we have to wish to be free from the entire cycle existence, and not only for ourselves alone, by thinking that how our sentient beings are sane, like ourselves, not wanting any suffering and always wanting happiness all the time, and then we should have that kind of thought towards other sentient beings as well, wanting them to be free from all the suffering of cycle existence.
나도 동아라 다시 전에 동아지 동아 예배 동아 차와지 동아 숨겨서와.
And some of us, we don't even know what the sufferings are. So the suffering is described in general as 3: the suffering of suffering, and the suffering of change, and all pervasive suffering.
식당 동아사에 가려고 그러나 저도야 그게 지금 납돼야.
So generally, what do you understand as the suffering? Can you say that?
Okay, who's wanted?
Sickness, death, injury.
당소 동아 치워서 들어왔어. 다 가서 가리시오는 가서 동아 뜨겠어. 가리시오는 가서 동아 뜨겠어. 근데 시오는 가서 내 동아 뜨겠어 가서. 내려가다 동아 치다 동아 다 치워서 들어왔어. 거기서 동아 뜨게.
So what you are talking about is the suffering of suffering, right? The big sufferings. But other than that, what would you consider as suffering? So when it says, okay, if this happens, then that would be called suffering. Is there anything like that?
I got a new job and I wish I had my old job.
Anybody agree with him? He and
Grass
she.
is always greener on the other side.
What was that? Say again?
They're saying grass is always greener. Sort of stuff, it's you're here and now this is good, but boy, that looks good over there. So I should go over there.
Yeah, 들려도 가지 마지. 나서 만들어야 돼. 내가 동화세. 만들어야 돼.
So yeah, you can say like that. But anyway, in general, something like anything you don't like, something that you don't like is called suffering.
나도 간반히 눈치 대와이나 빨아도 대우면 눈치 될 줄인데 왔어. 내 동화로 왔어. 눈치 대 도움으로 왔어. I'm not talking you guys, okay?
So you sit, your legs on the ground at first, and then you don't want to sit like that any longer. You want to lift up your knee, and then you sit up, holding your knee up.
Yeah.
That's suffering.
Something is here, then too long, then too difficult, then you have to do this. So those
are all sufferings. Suffering is not necessary to be something that makes us to cry. So that's called suffering of change. When you sit like that for a long time, then you don't want to sit, and then you think pushing your knee up will be comfortable. Then you push it up, and then you feel comfortable for a little while. But then again, after some time, becomes painful, and then you put it down again. And so that's a suffering of change.
Is that it?
Talking about me, because I'm ready.
No, I'm not talking to you, okay? No.
I have a question. So from the moment we're conceived, we're suffering. In the womb we suffer, from birth we suffer, all our life we suffer, right? The first time I met Geshe Sogat was a March cold day with Damchoe. And the first question he asked me is, he said, do you know, he looked out the window and he said, do you know this is suffering? And I went, yes, I know. And he turned to Damchoe and said, oh, she knows everything. I said, no, I just know suffering. I know I'm suffering. That's why I'm here. So I understand suffering. But I had a question to ask. Bodhisattvas on the first level, when they come back into a human body, right, to help sentient beings, right, do they suffer?
아니 조놈토네 아니 다 그래 나와도 저 동아로 말해서 동아로 말해서 나 사탕 빼는 조놈 타고 동아로도 가고 그래서.
So did you say the Bodhisattva of the Bhumi?
In the first Bhumi, yeah.
Sattva
They
of
suffer when they come
대요
back.
대요.
No, they don't have suffering. But in our appearance, they might have some suffering. To our appearance,
Right.
their appearance having suffering.
But they don't experience suffering the way we do in our bodies and our minds.
No.
대요. Sometimes maybe they teach others, they don't listen, maybe they learn something. 들리기 봐서 관심하지. 당 가서 탄다 지금 맞아요. 누가 와서 당 가서 대를 타야 덤쳐버려요.
So anyway, so there's something that we don't want, right? So that's called suffering, and we don't want to do it. We should try to free from that.
내가 민주주의 샤스미 안다고 따와서 공부를 해서
And so therefore, you have to meditate on the three fundamentals of the path.
어때다 다 다르더라. 누구까지 왜 누구하지? 아니 누구는 당가서 시당 거의 누구 냐냐 대가서 거 나와 까마 나와 레카쇼다 아니 모타 답샤 아니 뭐도 대라 누구하지?
So that's the suffering of change, and usually, when we talk about, on top of having all these sufferings, general sufferings, then we have the other sufferings like having headache, having injuries, and having losing job, and so forth. And all these are for the suffering of suffering.
근데 다 저한테 지동한테 땅하고 제가 하고 말래라고 하고 말해.
And then the third type of suffering, the pervasive suffering, is very difficult to recognize as a suffering.
누가 그만 이등 가서 내려고 지금 두서네. 가서 내려 하고 그러나. 누가 담아서 내려고 하고도 말이야.
So the first two sufferings, we can easily understand as a suffering, but the third suffering is not easily understood as suffering.
잡아듯이 동화스러워. 아니 토스트에 만년에 빨아야지. 다 얘니하고 깨워는 거 비차. 내려오려고 그래서.
And so, the all-pervasive suffering is the suffering, is the part that makes us to be born in the cycle axis through the power of karma and delusion, from the deepest hell, the hell without respect, to all the way to the top, the peak of existence.
같이 저한테 동화사 됐다 지 이제 자다 먹어야 같이 됐다 딱 가르쳐 들어와 하고 가르쳐.
So there's many ways of explaining this all-pervasive suffering, but anyway, this is more difficult to understand as a suffering.
다 같이 맞지 소소 문제가 들어 동화사 들어와.
So anyway, what we don't want is called suffering.
Somebody said, what is suffering when we say? We don't want to think about, oh, maybe I said this, maybe I'm wrong or not, maybe I little doubt. 같이 감 매도한테 두마를 남나 같이 된 곳 소리 와.
So when you ask this question, what is suffering, that if you could just, you might have all these different thoughts and think that this is suffering, that's suffering, and so forth. But in general, if you just say anything that we don't desire, anything undesirable thing, is the suffering.
Even if you go to the great monsters, you can depend some monk. Whatever come the other
So even if you go to these great monasteries where they are debating all the time, well trained to prove you whatever you say is wrong. And if you say that whatever you don't want is suffering, then I don't think they'll be able to prove that you're wrong.
But they still got you different way. What kind of suffering maybe they curse. Go curse. Can you come to the
So they might try it in different ways to prove that it's not suffering, but they will not be able to prove that. So if you say something that you don't want is suffering, then they might ask, so if that is suffering, then which of these three suffering is it? So whether it's suffering of change, or suffering, or all-pervasive suffering.
You can tell them, I'm checking what condition that.
And so then it says, it depends on what you don't like. So depending on something that you don't like, the thing that you don't like, depending on that, then you will be able to say that particular not liking is what's suffering.
Okay? That's it?
Yeah, my question is about the relationship between compassion and suffering. Does it compassion require a form of suffering in a way? Because you're moved by the suffering of other people? There's something you want to relieve that you can't bear?
닝제도 동화. 닝제라 동화를 닝제 모르겠어. 닝제 공부라 동화를 닝제 모르겠어.
닝제 공부라?
닝제 공부. So to meditate on compassion, or to generate compassion.
Just in general, like the idea that you can't bear the suffering of other beings. It seems like if you can't bear it, that feels like suffering or something you wouldn't want.
You mean to say?
If you look at the suffering of another person, and you feel that that is unbearable, isn't that a form of suffering? But that's also part of compassion.
No, that thought is not suffering. So, I mean, it depends again. Like Buddha always had that kind of thought, not being able to bear the suffering of sentient beings. Oh, I wish they're all free from suffering, but he doesn't have suffering. So that would not be suffering. If that is suffering, then you have to say here is suffering. But in our case, maybe, when you have that thought, as ordinary being, if you have that thought, then that thought might make you unhappy. So you are suffering. And that thought is suffering for you.
I guess maybe
so not necessarily, that.
Yeah.
Depends on whose mind it is.
differences between
the person.
unbearable and undesirable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Unbearable, so we are not able to bear, but Buddha don't desire it. Unbearable and undesirable. What do you mean like that?
But he said that all suffering is whatever is undesired, right?
Yeah. So you said the difference.
There must be some difference between unbearable and undesirable in that case, because Buddha, when he sees the suffering of sentient beings, can't bear it. So he's always moved to act.
So yeah, that thought in Buddha's mind is not suffering.
Although
wanting others, not desiring to have, not desiring for others to have suffering, is not suffering in Buddha's mind. So if that is suffering, then you might understand that is suffering in Buddha's mind. And so our suffering, of not wanting is what we don't want.
Okay, now we have caution. Okay.
When you spoke of the 3 principles of the path, I just wondered if it was intentional to say renunciation was the mind that wishes to be free from samsara, bodhicitta is the mind that wishes to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of others, but then you said the wisdom realizing correct view, but not the mind that has developed the wisdom. So is there a reason, is that just semantics, or is there a reason that it is not that same mind that has developed the wisdom, say, versus the wisdom?
Shut up the same figures, same motivate the new call it how to load it. Same thing to do. I'm going to load it. And then the don't do a shut up, then lost it, just drama sauce. The Lord will address.
Don't need to shut the Lord. Shut up the Lord charged.
So usually in Buddhism, in scriptures, in Buddhist scriptures, they say the wisdom is a mind. Wisdom is a type of mind. So when you say the wisdom, you don't have the mind.
Okay, but it is
it's a mind.
It's a type of mind.
It's a type of mind. It's a mind.
Okay.
Because it's a wisdom. So if it's a wisdom, it's necessarily mind.
Okay.
Just like that. So
okay.
This is the same as saying mind relies on correct view, or wisdom relies on mind, correct view. Same thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Your question?
When one realizes, when the wisdom realizes the emptiness, what happens to the wisdom? Does it still be there, or does it dissolve?
Shut up, you don't told them shut up. Shut up, the thought, dig out of your cold lava wars.
Then they dissolve. No, it's not there.
It becomes wisdom realizing emptiness.
저런 게 jelaya tada apina. 다 간지 맞지. 로딩에 돈 주는데 로딩 돈이 더 너무 오셔서 말해서 가지마시.
So when the mind realizes emptiness, then it becomes the mind realizing emptiness.
저런 게 이제 로 가야라고 돈이 돈나 다 제가 돈이 더 올려야해서 가지마시.
So when you realize an emptiness, you have the mind that realizes emptiness.
근데 저런 게 제가 지금 저런 게 로 가야라고 샹주스 뭐 어째서나 저런 게 제가 샹주스 해야 되겠습니다. 저런 게로 차도 샹주스 되고 하는 말이죠.
So when you have realized the bodhicitta, or the general bodhicitta in your mind, then there's the part of mind that becomes the bodhicitta. It's not the whole mind becomes bodhicitta. Every type of mind becomes bodhicitta. It's not like that. So when the mind realizes the object, then that mind becomes the mind which realizes the object.
Okay?
So when the mind realizes the object, say that again?
Then the mind becomes the mind which realizes the object.
Mind becomes the mind.
So, within the Buddhist scriptures, there are many people who have realized emptiness. There are many examples which are given, of a lot of high teachers from Tibet, from India, from other places. All these people, once they realized they must be different people. Their minds must be different. Once they realize emptiness, and their minds are different after they realize emptiness, right? So the thing is that if a person realizes emptiness, it's not that all of them are the same, have the same style. They all still retain their old styles of human beings, right? And their old, sometimes habits also, and the way they speak and everything. So just because a person has realized emptiness doesn't mean they have to be some sort of a special person, like just only can be one type of person, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they 가서나 그런 문이 돈이 돈은 지금 이제 가갔다는 말이다. 나도 때는 말이야. 내가 그냥 가를 나도 제대로 그렇지 않니 나사 제대로.
So yeah, from his side he will not show it, but in terms of the practice, there will be a big difference. So the practice in terms, will be a big difference, like the difference of the earth and space. So like when he does, he'll be doing like with eyes open. When we do, we'll be doing with the eyes closed.
You close the eyes and cook. And I had
but when we look, he or she will show us the same thing. Will not show up as like a different person. So sometimes you see people who come out with their long hair and wearing certain kind of clothes and so forth. I don't know if that is the sign, saying that they have certain kind of realizations.
They hold you big jamallas, very long hands, and little stance. Unusual, maybe they're very special. I don't know. Okay? Okay, now I'll go to one more. I have to give exam. Written exam. Is there a difference between realizing all the teachings of the Buddha to be without contradiction and allowing all the scriptures to present themselves as instructions. Everybody understand? Is a difference between realizing all the teachings of the Buddha to be without contradiction and allowing all the scriptures to present themselves as instructions. Okay? What do you say?
Can I try?
Yeah, well, of course.
So the former statement is how the teachings are taught, and the latter one is how the teachings are studied. That's how I understood.
당부들 건네질라 말했어. 니버들 건네질 냠는 척 그랬어.
Yeah, good. But they're different, right? Everybody believe they're different? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. No?
They're different.
Yeah.
So the first one is how you teach, is it?
The former is how the teachings are taught. So they're taught without contradiction. And then how the scriptures are presented as instruction is how we should study.
당부들 다 건네질 라바랬어. 랍도 그런데는 가와메와 라바랬어. 나는 니버들 때는 만족했다. 줄 라바들은 만족 건네지는 럽좀 쳐버렸어. 다 개발되었어.
Yeah, that's good.
I
Right.
thought about it.
Yeah. 겐디 보라 가르치면서 강다치 사제에 냐는다. 고아대 때마다 또 말해. 강다치 지셨어.
고아스.
고아 시다.
So what I said here is that knowing that all the teachings of the Buddha are needed, for each individual to gain enlightenment is what is known as realizing all the teachings of the Buddha to be without any contradiction.
Then we can say them.
And then what you said makes it a little bit clearer.
Okay.
Also, the text says having the first does not necessarily mean you have the second, but if you have the second,
Yeah.
you necessarily have the first.
Yeah. What is done with what one has studied?
What has to be done?
What is to be done?
What is to be done with what one has studied?
So you understand the question? What is to be done with what one has studied? Well, the question actually is what we have studied is what we are supposed to practice? Is what we have studied is what we have to, what we have to practice? Huh?
Yes.
Question.
No, I changed the question when I emailed it because the original English I got was difficult to understand.
So what's the question?
I was going to say put it into practice, but now I'm unsure.
Yeah, that's what
That's for meditating.
Yeah, that's not the
put
question.
it into practice.
See, if you answer in that way, that's not the question.
Yeah.
The question is what we are studying is what we are supposed to practice?
Yes.
Yes.
So what you are studying is what you are supposed to practice, right? Then saying like that.
depends what you're studying.
What we are studying. Here. What we're studying here.
He said it depends on what.
The peanut gallery back there.
Can't vouch for that.
You're right. So it depends on what you study.
What do you study? You have to practice. You study to engineering, you have to practice to engineering. You have to study math, what's it, mathematics? You have to practice mathematics.
Well, no, I mean, and Pabongka Rinpoche says it is okay to study other religious tenet systems, but only in small amounts and only so you can show the strength of the Buddhist Dharma against the other systems. But in later days, he says it is okay to study other religions, but not in depth. You should devote yourself to studying Buddhism. So in that case, what you're studying, you're not practicing. What you're studying is enhancing your alternate practice.
Pabongka Rinpoche didn't love shots, song shots. 나저 럽준 제거 되는 냠는 제거가 말했어. 가서는 지난 다 코로나서는 럽준 냠는 제거가 말했어. 가서는 롬촌 자리 가서 되는 치료버리는 좀 더 거대 가서 롬촌 제고 버렸어.
So then it better
얘나 되냐 안 되죠.
analyze a minute.
저도 가디나 때도 저도 가래 고노크로 누워서 고노크에 말해서 가서 갈라서 빼셔서 계산 때문에 싸지 딱 그래 딱 사진 주변에 데리 떼서 사진 주변에 셔봐 주나 너무 남도 왔어
좋아하는 거 가르쳐.
아 가르쳐
다들 좋아해.
이게 아니 양수 가는지 주디 가래래 돈이 시 주디래 왜 양수량이 주디처럼 로저셔 주디래
So the question is, what you practice is what you have studied, right? But it's not saying like everything you have studied, so you have to practice, right? That's what it is. It's not saying, do you have to practice everything you study? No, of course not. Then that answers your question. No, you don't need to, because you can study about other religions, about non-Buddhist religions, and so forth. But in order to have the knowledge, but not to put it in practice. So that's the question. So that's not the question anyway here.
Yeah, no, I know.
But still, even if you study those things, because Pabongka Rinpoche said too, in order to strengthen your understanding of Buddhism, you're still practicing what you study, because it's in the book.
Yeah, of course. And if you
Do
don't
it.
study, you will not be able to practice, right?
Yeah.
So you only practice what you have studied. That's true.
이마다 저도 빼고 딴 주사들 산 주거든 데리
말 그런 게 좋아들. 내가 아주 롬촌 제가 상관된 남 열면 저거를 띠고 말아.
되게 그거
띠게 그런 게 라바디 제바는도 나도 롬촌 제가 상관된 거든 열면 제거는 되는데 아주 즐거워 롬촌 제가 대야 열면 저거 띠고 말아.
이런
So you practice what you have studied. You have to practice everything that you study. And what is it like? There was this part in scripture where it says, you study and you practice what you have studied. You don't practice what you have not studied, or you have studied something else, right? So just like the example, if you are going to have a horse race, then you go and have the horse trained in a place where you're going to have the horse race. So you you take the horse and train it, to run on that place. But then when the actual race is happening, then you take the horse to somewhere else. Then the horse will not be able to run well because it's not trained to that place. So it's like that.
근데 가디나 저도 로저 찍을 딱 고리 그려 맞아. 직질라도 어떻게 천상 인사다 samaya 맞아.
Yeah. So you have to understand that clearly. You should not make any mistakes there. That's what
Okay. Okay. The land I have not found a reliable friend shows the essential point of what practice.
Practice.
Okay. Everybody got it?
No, somebody say the question.
The line.
Okay.
So there's a line in the quotation. I have not found a reliable friend.
Oh.
So that shows what practice.
What practice?
Of the three scopes, which practice of which scope does it show?
Okay.
Shows the middle scope. It shows in the book, that's what it's written.
Shows the practice of
It shows, in other words, just after the line, it says, in other words, I readily associate my experiences at the shrine with the section, the middle scope, dealing with samsara's bane of uncertainty.
So it's in the scripture there on the quotation.
I guess that
So 65.
It's on
makes
87.
the scope and it's all,
Oh, I see that.
Is that different?
it's the toll on, right?
Yeah.
Major.
So in the scripture, in the text, it says, right. So it shows the disadvantages of uncertainty towards the perfections of the psychic existence.
You got it? Everybody saw the text? Everybody looking. Here, Kazan, the Sholokas Madros or what Tarriers. Just there. Okay. I'm going to the third one, okay?
Shiva.
Shiva. Fourth one. When does one realizing all the scriptures or instructions, correct? Instructions. Instructions.
Question.
When does
When does one realize all the scriptures are instruction?
The question we got was what shows that one has realized.
Yeah.
Oh, what shows?
Yeah, what shows? 가래 땡겨서 가래 땡겨서.
똥도 가르쳐. 나만 저도 가르쳐.
When you become Buddha.
It's going to be a long time.
I think someone need to do a little bit more this one.
When does one realize all the scriptures are instructions? 내가 저기 가득도 벌써 내가 왔다. 도서 강화에서.
그래 더 가득도 그래서. 도서도 가르쳐 버렸어.
So you say when you gain enlightenment? 상계는 또 그랬어.
Do you get this?
Who else has a question? Another answer? Or Bikram?
Okay.
I'll get a stab at it. That one's life has changed for the better with less suffering.
나도 더 미치게 야지 친구는 나도 뭐 용어 친구는 야지 다들 야지 친구한테 들으래.
Oh. No.
No.
Okay.
When one does not taper anything with anything that the Buddha has put in his own sutra, then one I feel will show that he's realized that the scriptures are instructions.
What are you reading?
It's written in the books already. So I'm reading from my notes.
Okay. Kurukulla.
Can you say that again?
What I'm saying is when one does not mess around, when one does not change anything, right, with what Gautama Buddha has written in his sutras, then one knows that has realized that the scriptures are actually instructions, and there's nothing to change.
나는 그 상계기 가르송과 딜라가 저기 파서 야마 대대마다 같이 서서하게 찍찍 소좀 야외나 안들이 상계 가르송과는 사다 걸었네. 그냥 가서 남아야 맞아 하고 그랬어. Yeah, cultures.
I think it's when you realize like each of the teaching is meant for you. When you read it, you feel like that was taught for me. No matter which one it is, all of them seem like he taught that for me.
말다. 남아 예시도 쉐버래. 삼바이나 안 뒤도 되네. 알아. 뒤도 되네. 다 그런 게 가서 내 손으로 남아도 차버렸어.
대오래.
Yeah, you can say that.
내 빼자나 해야 돼. 갈라도 상관없어.
알려주겠어.
Okay.
I would just say, if you don't see any contradiction in there.
나오면 그다고 그랬어.
That one is seeing without contradiction, right?
Yeah. Because there are instructions.
니나 진도 없이다. 도순대에 진도 없이 도순.
This question is about like when we see that they are
It's
all instructions to be
well,
practiced.
it's just the way of saying it, right? When does one realize all the scriptures are instruction? So, other words, what is the meaning of allowing all scriptures to present themselves as instruction?
When you take refuge.
When one has meditated on them. When one has meditated, when one has applied, when one has taken the study and put it into thought and done the practice, then I think.
지난 번째 다들 성우라 말하다 모두 차수도 그 차단을 가라했어. 그거는 교신을 깨졌지는 있어.
대충.
So what is the meaning of allowing? What's the meaning of allowing all the scriptures to present themselves as instruction, present themselves to you as instruction? What does that mean?
It's not just intellectual. It means it's not just for studying, not just intellectual. It's about transforming mind, body, and speech in daily life and following that study as an instruction for behavior.
다 저도 관계 시도 라오라고 랑줬어요. 야, 가서. 나 콜라도 된다 마 과요 들어. Because maybe. 간지 맞지 냠내게 내려오라. 제가 로조데 또 하나야. 야, 내가 신년 때도 작아도 야, 신년 때도 건도 두세다. 내가 맞지 딱 깨우는 거 거셔도 어디 깨우는 거 두세다. 다 내가 세제시 왔다 세제고 두두다. 두두 소소 갑도 거도 파. 자식 와로서나 아니 소망을 당하지 않았어. 그래서 내가 누웠어. 너 신년 때에는 신랑을 봐요. 좀 봐대봐. 대사치 이게 아무나 사체로 좀로 로게 된거 봐시네. 지금 조거주는 조거 시에네. 소나들이 딱 냠내 디테일하게 딱 대대처럼 대대라 강아지 차도 오셨나?
So when we talk about allowing all the scriptures to present themselves to you as instruction, what did we talk? We just said about being able to put it into practice, right? Being able to put, so not just knowing what is the teaching or what is the practice, but being able to put it into practice. So this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. So we had an example of 4 bags of rice, wheat, and so forth. So when you find a handful of the grain, so what is the rice, so it goes into this bag. If you don't have that bag, then you just might throw it and then waste it. Right? So we're talking about that, and so it's as simple as that. When you are able to apply it to practice, then that time you have allowed all the scriptures to present themselves as an instruction. And so this is what Geshe said here. When one is able to carry all the topics, starting from guru devotion to karma abiding, and spiritual insight into practice, then one has realized the scriptures to be instruction. When you're able to put it into practice.
I think that's very, very similar to her answer.
Yeah.
today 내가 단단하도 돼 렌트 주동서 야왕하면서 야 티카도 딱 대고도 와 다들 깨우는 거야 이밤이 고속으로 와도 사마서나 근데 어때서 진짜 very special 된다고 삼샤는 너무 샤도 맞죠.
And so if whenever you say a line like just we said, I have not found a reliable friend, so of the fifth Lama, the line from fifth Lama's verse. So he says, oh, that's talking about this medium skills practice. So now you can apply that into this practice. And so when you're able to do that, then all the scriptures has presented themselves as an instruction to you.
들려도 삼아도 대 갈라고 스페셜 들려고 제대로 나다면서 그분이 대답 고마도 알아서.
And so otherwise, if you're not I would apply and practice, but just say, oh, what is it? Then you have not been able to see it as an instruction.
다 들려도 다다 네 가도 되라고도 와서 그만 그래야 돼 강성화되고 다 말한 거지 샘제 다 그래 예제 또 하기도 송화님 송으로 거나 땅을 잡아라더라 수랍 당하자고 수랍 가인다 냠내 근데.
And just like he said also, like if you think that, oh yeah, this is telling me, I have to do this, I have to do that, and so forth, and then that's also, you can say, allowing the scriptures to present themselves as advice to you or instruction to you. So similar to what she said, right? Yeah.
She's ready.
So the 37 practices of Bodhisattva, which we're studying on Wednesday nights, would be an example from the lam-rim of the great scope, right? Because it's all Mahayana. Yes, that's right. So you take a scripture and you say, what part of the lam-rim does this come from, right? So that would be from the teachings on the great scope, right?
So not the whole of it, but parts of it.
So different parts would apply to different.
So so that last time we talked about. So this verse shows about perfect will, this shows about
that's right, that's right,
so
that's
forth.
right. So just apply it to different parts of the law.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Stop.